start. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. This is, well, Chase is not here, right? So we can pretty much go ahead and just make a mincemeat of his channel and just do whatever we feel like. Okay. So
Let's see your best Chase impersonation.
that is, I
Hey,
think, my
what's up,
best
guys?
Chase
Welcome back to the
impersonation.
GFCT chat Q&A.
Yeah, this is the GFCT chat Q&A. We are this is pretty much the standard crowd except for Chase. We have got Gabe and we have got Ajit and we have got me, Shom. So sorry for not being here in the last call from me. Ajit and Gabe, you have met, and we can pretty much give quick introductions of each one of us. We go alphabetical, start with Ajit.
Hi guys, good to see you. I thought this video will start with Gabriel's wildcard and his thought process behind that. Gabe, over to you.
Yeah, hi everybody. Thanks Ajit. Gabriel here at FPL Lens on Twitter. And yeah, happy to start with so I was on wildcard before game week 9, between game week 8 and 9. It was always the plan from the beginning of the season. And always recognizing that it was right before, it was one game week, almost like too soon regarding fixture swings. But the internet, I appreciate the 2 weeks of an international break to work through all of the kind of like trash iterations of my wild card. So the first wild card I get, it looks amazing. I'm ready to start the week, and it's just like it's Monday. so then you talk to people, you do more research, and you go refining it, right?
Right.
So that's why I like doing it during an international break. I also like doing it during international break because there are usually two kind of like main times for price fluctuations. And they're usually really heavy. So it's like right at the beginning of an international week when there are some price fluctuations and people rush to the market. So there's big market changes then. And then right at the end, when people are like, I'm going to wait for the news comes out and there's a whole other rush. So in that sense, it usually works out. I think this time I made 1.1 or 1.2 million in team value over the international break. So that was the success of it. I will share my screen to show.
Go ahead.
Share screen. I'll just share the whole screen here. Can you all see it? Am I sharing the wildcard team here?
Not yet.
Wait to see if it comes up. Hold on. 1 second. Sorry. New platform for me.
Okay. Now,
how's that?
Now.
So there it is. There's the wild card.
That is Gabe's wild card. Yes.
Actually, it's not. I don't have Peacock Farrell. I went with Forster. So
okay.
That's
yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. No, this must be an older version. Because I also
don't have De Bruyne.
I don't have De Bruyne. I went with Sterling. So change Peacock Farrell for Forster and change De Bruyne for Sterling, and we'll talk about those for sure. So I guess I'll start at the back. For me, it was Martinez wasn't actually an easy choice. I think a lot of people have thought that Martinez is the obvious choice, and I do think he is. I went for Martinez because of the fixtures. Just Villa it's something you don't have to worry about until after the congested period next month. So I just thought that over the long term there'd be more returns for Martinez. I had McCarthy. So obviously 1 week after, game week 9 hits, McCarthy scores, I think 9 points. Martinez scores 1. Doesn't look like a good pick, but again, I think the thing to focus on for me is that I made my wild card team for the future, not for game week 9. So that was the big focus. You'll notice, I think the first thing is the kind of heavy investment in mid to highish priced players at the back. the reason for this is historically that's where the best value in the game comes from. And, there's so often we think, or I've thought in the past, well, I can get, a couple of big hitters, defenders, and then rotate maybe some cheaper ones. But I think what I've learned this season is I don't trust the defenders in the 4.5 million range. Other than potentially Masuaku, but even then, we don't know about, there's a little uncertainty regarding Benrahma and if he's going to maybe be rested or what have you. So I went for the value picks in defense, and they are a little bit more expensive. But you'll notice every single one of my defenders offers attacking potential. And that is by design. I don't have any center backs. I don't have anyone where if they lose a clean sheet, then I'm pretty much guaranteed to not get any returns. And that's what I'm looking for. Harkening back to my matchups article, I have a table on FS Scout that is attacking defenders form. So it's attacking stats only for defenders, and I kind of use that to make my selections here. Obviously, Alex Telles. We don't have any data on him except for the game he played against PSG, but we have data from him with Porto, and his delivery is phenomenal, and he is almost irresponsibly attacking. So I took a punt on him, and the reason I took a punt on him is you'll notice in my midfield there's no United cover, specifically no Bruno Fernandes. So what I thought is that Alex Telles could cover Bruno Fernandes from a points per million perspective. I'm obviously not looking to get the same amount of points from Alex Telles as people get from Bruno Fernandes. And actually in game week 9, it worked almost exactly. So Alex Telles scored 6 points. Bruno Fernandes, I believe he scored 11. Am I right?
Yeah.
So a little less than double, right? And Bruno costs a little less than double what Alex Telles costs. So I think that idea really worked out, at least in game week 9. And I feel happy having that kind of United, having a more kind of value-centric United coverage rather than getting in somebody like Bruno and being frustrated when United can't create anything, or when Martial is having a tantrum, or when Rashford tries to shoot and it goes up for a throw-in, or when Ole just keeps being Ole and doesn't play kind of their best players. So that's kind of the explanation of why no Bruno and why Alex Telles instead of Bruno. To move on, I guess, to the midfielders here. Grealish, I think Grealish could end up being the best value pick in the game. For me, he was automatic from the very beginning. Ziyech is in because of his form. Not necessarily Ziyech for me. I know a lot of people are very impressed with him. I'm impressed with him. But I'm not expecting him to be a season keeper. So Ziyech right now, while he's creating so many chances, I think he's a good asset for the next few. But once Pulisic gets involved, the team gets fully healthy. I do expect some of the dynamics there to change, and I don't think I think Ziyech will go through some dry spells, and other options will become available. I went Sterling over De Bruyne after a conversation with somebody in the community. And the main reason is they pointed me to the touches in the box. Sterling's touches in the box, obviously, by far eclipse Kevin De Bruyne's. And I'm not so sure that Kevin De Bruyne is on penalties anymore. With Agüero returning, he may reclaim those penalties. So De Bruyne with not much action in the box. De Bruyne when playing easy matchups gets moved a little bit deeper down in the field because they only play with one defensive mid, and potentially losing penalties. It just didn't seem worth the 11.5 million. And you'll notice like a lot of the way I've approached this season, and certainly the way I've approached this wild card, is very much about value. I notice the way I play in the past, I get really frustrated when I'm spending a lot and getting very little. So for me, it's these value propositions. They have to be on for me to enjoy the game. So that's why I switched to Sterling, because of the easy upcoming fixtures. I think his upside is much higher, and is a much more lucrative captaincy shout than De Bruyne is. I think Suchek is, or I think it's pronounced Sochek. Sochek is a another value pick. I mean, I think he might be the best budget value in attacking budget value in the game at 4.9 million. Can play him in very specific matchups to teams that concede a lot of headed chances on goal. And again, that a part of my matchups research, I always look at headed chances. And then Saha for the three really nice fixtures. Unfortunate he got COVID and was isolating, so I missed out on the first one. So he will most likely be on the chopping block, just because I don't know what his future holds for him. Going to the front line here, Calvert-Lewin. I think, again, going back to value, Calvert-Lewin might be the best value in the forward, although Bamford is going to certainly challenge that. Richarlison, you guys know he's been my darling little troll all season. Constantly gets opportunities. Is the talisman as far as creation. Not that he's creating necessarily everything for the team, but his presence makes Everton much more creative. I do have some. I had some Calvert-Lewin stats with and without Richarlison here. So with so here we go. In game weeks, okay, with Richarlison, we'll go big chances. Dominic Calvert-Lewin has 1.66 big chances per game. Without, it's 0.33 big chances per game. He has 1.5 goals per game with Richarlison and 0.33 goals per game without Richarlison. 3.2 shots inside the box with Richarlison, 1.7 shots inside the box without, 2.5 shots on target per game with, 0.7 shots on target without, and an XG per game of 0.92 with Richarlison and 0.34 without Richarlison. So that just shows the impact Richarlison has on the team. Richarlison had in game week 9, he had 2 very clear chances he could have put away, and that's kind of been, in the past, he's been actually quite a clinical finisher. And if he would have maintained his rate of finishing into this season, he would be one of the highest scoring players in the game. Unfortunately, that hasn't been the case. We saw from week 1 when he missed that sitter wide open goal, he shanked it with his left foot to the side. And that's, unfortunately for me, his season has been characterized by that. But I thought he might come back and be a little more clinical. And then obviously Vardy, when I brought him in, he had returned in 3 straight. We know Vardy's a streaky player. He has easy fixtures coming up, including that Liverpool fixture that I thought was easy, but Liverpool played out of their minds, like beyond any defensive performance that they've shown all season, with 3 out of 4 new players back there, or players that haven't played much this season back there. So it was a bit of a disappointing in terms of production. But I feel like the reasoning for Vardy is still there. So I'm gonna kind of hold true to that. You'll notice in my wild card that I will always have kind of more money than what is customary on my bench. So with this setup, for example, I'm probably most likely playing a 3-4-3, or most likely it'll be a 3-4-3, which means that I have a 5 million-ish defender on my bench. This is by design. Some people say, the way some people play is that is a headache that I want to avoid. I don't want to be making these types of decisions. I'm the opposite. I don't want to leave things. I don't want a decision taken out of my hands. I would rather make the wrong call than not have a call at all, and just play players because they cost more or something like that. So I use this kind of setup and the fact that I will be rotating defenders or even midfielders is kind of plays to my strengths as an FPL player, and that's kind of referencing back to my matchups article. Now, the plan moving forward for this is this week. So this was always the plan. I didn't know exactly who the players were, but I do now. So Zaha will move. I'll move Zaha out for Trezeguet. Um, Trezeguet may be coming out of left field for some, but he has over the past two game weeks he has the most shots on target of any player. Last game week in game week 9 he has more shots shots inside the box, shots in the box. Last game week he had the most shots in the box of any player, and he had 0 of those shots on target. And last game week in game week 9 he also had an XG of more than 1 for that game. So these are kind of like the underlying stats that combined with the right fixtures can not predict, but maybe guess at potentially good form coming up. And so I think Trezeguet is going to be a nice little budget enabler for me. So Zaha will be moved out for Trezeguet. Richarlison will be moved out for Antonio, not this week, next week. And Ziyech will be shipped out for Salah. And then that turns my formation into a 4-3-3. In the 4-3-3, obviously one of those defenders will be benched. I will have Trezeguet and Soucek on the bench, and play Calvert-Lewin, Vardy, and Antonio. That's kind of my short-term plan. Long-term plan, Vardy will most likely become Bamford, and then I will reinvest in another midfield. I'll upgrade another midfield. But what I don't want to do, and kind of what the another idea behind this wild card was, is I do not want to make any defensive transfers until my next wild card. So that's why I selected such a kind of like a solid foundation for my defenders. I didn't go it's like medium at the back, but a lot of medium at the back, and all of them with upside. So even if another defender starts showing some form, be it a Liverpool defender or James or Castagna or Roberto Pereira when he comes back, that they'll be showing. There will be games where they're showing form. They're showing a lot of upside. It won't make sense for me to move from a defender that I have, because they all have upside, to another defender that's showing form with upside, because I already have that upside taken care of. So that was kind of the thinking. I think that's the thinking at all levels of this wild card. What do you think? Any questions, comments?
Yeah, Ajit?
No, that's a very, very thought out wild card. No,
Let it be known that this wild card scored me 49 points and a red arrow in game week 9. So it's patience.
Wild card, one game week doesn't decide.
Doesn't even matter. Yeah.
Wild card for me at least, and no, I really like it. I'm playing 4-3-3 myself, and I have a similar kind of amount spent on my defensive line. I mean, I'm just talking about the price points and the amount spent. And I completely agree with most of your value picks. And even the future transfers look very, very exciting. I agree that ZH for me as well. He's going to be in the team. In most teams, I feel, till he's got his momentum going, and the minute he loses it, I don't think a lot of people will hold him on for too long. And the only thing, the Sterling De Bruyne for me is a coin toss again. So I just I think this will answer a lot of other questions also. That's why I'm just bringing it up now. One is, between Diaz and Cancelo, was attacking the only reason you chose him, considering we're going into a heavy rotation risk period? And for those who want to go Diaz, what are their advantages? And the second one is that you've spent more money in your strikers at the moment. When would you shift that money back into the midfield? I mean, around which game week? Or is it already set or when will you feel more comfortable doing it?
When is the Salah thing happening?
Yeah.
The Salah thing is happening for the Fulham game after Wolves. So that is game week 11, I believe, or is it 12? No, it's 12. So game week, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I'm waiting until after the Wolves game to bring Salah in. So I'll answer the first question first. So between Ruben Diaz and Cancelo, well, I think Cancelo's gone up now, but Cancelo was 0.1 cheaper. So that was a small bonus in his favor. And I don't know. I mean, there's always rotation, obviously, with Pep. That's something that, we all, as managers, just kind of we get used to, right? And when we know the risks going in, I brought Sterling in, knowing that he could be benched in the game against Spurs, and he was, and I said, look, I threw my hands up and I said, I made this decision fully aware. I don't think Cancelo is as rotation risk as everyone else thinks. I think Cancelo has been since he going back to restart. He's been actually a regular player when healthy. When the only times he hasn't played is when he's been injured, when he was hurt to begin the season. But if you look, and then to add to that, both Zinchenko and Mendy have been abysmal at that left back spot. Both of them in both areas of the field. I think Zinchenko has been a little better defensively, a little better than Mendy, but Zinchenko has a problem that every time he goes forward, he comes inside and crowds the space when he goes forward with the ball. Mendy has the problem that he's a little bit out of control as a player. He doesn't have kind of the same. First of all, he doesn't have the same pace as when he came to City, and he doesn't have the same kind of vision, and his technique is a little bit different. That the passes that he puts in the spaces forward to Sterling are not as controllable or as easy as they used to be. I feel like Pep can't really trust him right now. Cancelo feels nailed to me, but I say that with a caveat that it's a Pep team, so I could definitely be wrong about that. And no defender has created more chances over the last 2, maybe 3 game weeks. I don't remember exactly than Cancelo.
4 or 5 even, yeah.
So for a while now he's been the most creative defender in the game, and so for me that's just even if he doesn't play. So this is the other thing, right? If you want a more nailed player, say for example, if I only had two 5/5 plus defenders, and the other 3 were cheap defenders, maybe I can't afford to risk a Cancelo. Maybe I am too worried about rotation. But given the defenders and the coverage that I have, I can get the player that I want, because I know if that player is benched, I will. There's no setup in this team where I don't have a really solid first option off the bench, and that's by design. I want that.
Fair enough.
And then the other question was the Sterling De Bruyne, correct?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the Sterling De Bruyne, I agree. It's splitting hairs, and it's very much personal preference, and it's also a little bit of faith, because Manchester City is not in good form, and they have not been creating many chances. So either one of them requires some faith. But I went, and De Bruyne is more involved in the play. So you see him, you watch the game, and you see De Bruyne moving the ball more, wanting the ball more. But he's almost in the easier games, when they play with just one defensive mid, he comes back to collect the ball, and De Bruyne becomes like the James Rodriguez of this past week, where he assists the assister. And I just want the person that's in the box. For Sterling, it's a simple shift for Sterling would transform his season, and that shift is his shooting technique. If he were to stop opening his hips up and swinging his leg kind of sideways, and with hitting the ball with kind of the inside of the instep of his boot, that makes the ball, first the ball loses power, but secondly it becomes very predictable, because when you swing your leg sideways like that, it's really hard to get the ball far post, and every single time you see Sterling's finishes, and it's a little curving dink right into the goalkeeper. But that's just a question of a small technical change, and if Sterling's finishing changes, then all of a sudden he's flying. So that's why I felt like there was a little bit more upside and a little less to fix with Sterling. But I can't begrudge anybody De Bruyne.
I like it when you say that either of them, that Man City is not in form, and either of them requires some amount of faith. I have both of them. So we shall see how that goes.
You are a man of a lot of faith, Sean.
Yeah.
They've got the fixtures now.
Yeah, they have the fixtures
Exactly.
now. See,
Now,
look, the thing is, yeah, exactly. And see,
now there's no excuse.
Yeah, exactly. And see, the thing is, I'm a lazy player. I'm just pretty much the opposite of Gabe's style. I would have 11 players and pretty much forget about them, not make transfers for 4-5 weeks and things like that. Completely comfortable with that. This is exactly the kind of formation which I thrive on. This is exactly the kind of game week sequence that I thrive on. So I'm just happy to put KDB and Sterling over there and pretty much forget about everything. I do have a question though to Gabe, and it kind of stems from watching Kane play. Correct me if I'm wrong. Again, I do not believe in my eye test too much, right? But from what I have seen, I feel Kane is in the form of his life, and I haven't seen him play so much better. In the team that you have right now, I can see without tampering your main team at all, you can still get Kane, right? From just change Vardy to Kane pretty quickly. So has that thought crossed your mind? Has the Kane thought crossed your mind? What are you thinking about Kane?
No.
How are you playing Kane?
So I look back on, full disclosure, Tottenham has been the bane of my season. I don't think they have. I think Tottenham as a team is similar to Vardy as a player. I think when you're looking at stats, all of the stats for Spurs are misleading. I think when you're looking at form, even the form is misleading. I think Son is is Son still like the top of the player who scored the most points? So Son scored the most points, but he's outperforming his XG by 5 goals. This isn't. I don't consider that form. I consider that variance. And Kane is in the form of his life. Maybe. But they've had almost no opposition. And they've played against tactically really just some dumb setups, to be perfectly honest. Just some stupid tactical setups that hasn't happened for any other team in the league. If Southampton, if any team would have played against City the way Southampton played against Spurs, then City would be, in the form of their life too. So the same thing can be said for that United, exactly, that United game. So and then you go back to like the last, let's see, before the City game, the last 3, Spurs only scored 1 goal in each of those games. And they really didn't create much. And that goal kind of came from, the things that they typically do. But I don't see any of these things as sustainable. Now, I've been wrong on Spurs all season, and I may continue to be wrong. Maybe they are the Vardy of teams, and you just have to forget about stats with Spurs and just go for it. That might be the case. But one of the things I hate most when I play this game is when I go against what I think, how I see the game, and then that doesn't work out, and what I originally thought turns out to be right. So if I were to go Vardy to Kane, and then Vardy starts going off and Kane blanks, I will tell myself, I knew it. Why did I go with Kane? I knew this. But if I don't go with Kane, if I stick with Vardy and I stick to my plan, and Kane goes off, I can just say, "Oh, I was wrong," and that's much easier for me to swallow.
No, that's fair. That's fair. Full disclosure: I don't have Kane. I don't have Son. I've never had Kane. Never had Son. Given a choice, I wouldn't have any Tottenham players with my Arsenal, with my Arsenal fan flag being raised. But hey, your point is again well taken. Will, in the long run, Tottenham, a Mourinho team score enough to sustain 2 My assumption is no. But
Right.
again, the way I'm looking at it is that there will be a lot of games where Tottenham will just win by the odd goal, and that goal will either come or be assisted by Kane. And because again, he's kind of central to whatever they're doing, and there'll be that one game in every four, every five, where they'll kind of run riot because there'll be some tactically naive team, and Mourinho's game plan will kind of feed off that, and Kane will get goals. But again, I don't have any intention of having Kane at this moment. My three big players. I have KDB and Sterling, and I have, for the matter, Mane as well. Because again, my plan was to have Mane and Salah, but then Salah got injured. Now, at some point of time, I have to change Mane over to Salah, and I cannot do that with a hit, right? That will be a
Right.
travesty. As in, if you do Mane to Salah with a hit, it's like doing Sterling to KDB or vice versa with a hit. It's just not done.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be a game week. But anyway, yeah.
Well, the other thing I'll add to that, and this is like a little preview of the
Yeah.
matchups column. I was doing some research, and
Yes.
I actually like Mane better than Salah. I like Mane better than Salah this week, and I
Tell
like
me more.
Sterling better than De Bruyne this week.
Tell me more.
So Brighton will be without Lamptey, who's a very fast, obviously, wing back, and so Veltman will be in that spot. He
Weltman.
is he is a slow ball playing center back. He's
Mm-hmm.
technically very good. He's not going to go forward, right? But he's quite slow, and I think Mane could kind of beat him with pace. The other thing is Brighton have conceded the second fewest chances from their left side,
Mm-hmm.
13, and they've conceded 20 chances from their right side. So they actually have one of the best defenses on the side that Salah plays, and a decent it's still a decent defense in terms of chances conceded, but they concede almost double the amount of chances from the right side. So hinting at Mane over Salah. The other thing is in game week 9, Mane had 5 shots in the box, which was second of all players for game week 9. 3 shots on target, first of all players from week 9, and he had an XG of 0.6. He really should have had some returns. The other thing, so to speak to Sterling, so Burnley have created the fewest chances from the right side, 8. Fewer than anyone else in the league. That's so few chances from the right side. And what happens is Loughton, he sits. He does not push forward like a Charlie Taylor on the other side, right? So he just sits there with that back line. And then you have Gudmundsson, who plays in front of him. And Gudmundsson almost plays like a defensive midfielder. So Gudmundsson tucks inside to make the middle of the field to congested and compact in defense. So if you have Gudmundsson tucking inside and Loughton sitting, that creates a huge amount of space on that left wing that I think both
Good point.
Cancelo and Sterling will be able to take advantage of this weekend.
I like that. That's very good thinking. Interesting points, and I will have to go back and think a little bit about those as well. What do you think, Ajit? Nice, isn't it?
No, they're very interesting points. I don't own any of these players, so I kept Salah on the bench, and I got KDB. So for me this week, I'm going to be captaining one of them. So
Yeah.
it depends. City just hasn't been that attacking unit that they have. I understand KDB is not even gone for his UCL game. I think he's been given some time off just to rest. But Salah's been in excellent form. And I can understand why people have chosen Mane. I mean, I had Mane most last season, and I was very happy having him and not having Salah, and I was fine and I was doing really well. So I completely agree with that. But if I do have Salah, then I think Salah scored against Brighton after the restart as well. He got them. And I've had Ryan all season. And
right,
he's gave me 11 points in 6 game weeks. They don't concede too many chances, and the stats don't show you anything. I mean, the way you feel about Tottenham with the stats, I feel the same way about Brighton's defensive stats. I mean, I see it, and everything looks very hunky-dory, but then I own one of my players, and I'm like, I'm not getting a goddamn point. I mean, it's just zero. So I'm just like, forget it. And these weren't tough teams. They're going to play tough teams now.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. In fact,
Uh,
I had Ryan. Sorry, go ahead.
so they are very aggressive, and overall, when you watch them play, they look amazing, but they don't win. So
Exactly.
I
They
think
don't
Villa
win.
was
They don't score goals, and they concede. Exactly. It's like you know what? Brighton is the synchronized swimming team, right? They're the typical synchronized swimming team, right? It's
yeah,
all about how pretty you look, right?
yeah.
And it's got nothing to do with the performances. It's pretty much that they look pretty on the ball. They have these nice flowing moves from the right and from the left. Nonetheless, they scored nothing and they concede every match.
Well, Matt Ryan has Kepa-like stats. Pardon.
Exactly.
His every chance is a goal.
Goes in
Come
exactly.
on.
2 goals, 1 save every match. Ridiculous. You know what? And this is coming from a guy who had Mopai and Matt Ryan for an extended part of the season. So you know what? Yeah. So Mopai is one of those guys for me. I had a season. But that is the good part. I got rid of Mopai at just the exact time. Right? He
Yeah,
scored a few
got you
goals.
points though at the
Yeah,
start.
yeah, exactly. I got him in, he scored points, and then he started playing like rubbish. I saw 1 or 2 matches, I got rid of him, and he continues to be rubbish. So I cannot
No,
complain.
but he didn't make the squad one game week. They were having
Exactly. So see,
making the
that's the fun part. There was this game week just before everything where Matt Ryan and Mopai got into uh, you know, they had some altercation between each other, and Potter sacked both of them for a match, so none of them played. And I just lost it around that time. I just got rid of Mofa. I just got rid of Matra. I got rid of Matra in the one game week before. But anyway, long story. Come on, you know what? If I continue talking about Brighton, we wouldn't have any questions. So we can probably go back to the questions if we may.
so the
Let's get to the question.
Yeah.
the other important point I just wanted to bring up before we carry on with the questions is that all the players mentioned here, both Liverpool and City, their ownership is very very low now. I think this is my third season. You guys have played way longer than me, and in my last 2 seasons, I've never seen it like this. I think Sterling's at 4%, KDB is at 11%, Mane is at 13%, and even Salah, because of his COVID, has dropped to below 30%. I've never
Yeah, 30 odd. Yeah. Yeah. This
so
is good time.
I
So,
guess this is a
yeah.
good time, and people are said they've got in other players, and if they're caught napping, you could make rank with these guys. Even if you double up on them like Som has, maybe other people are thinking the same. I think it's a risk worth taking. It's a risk worth taking.
See, I will take it anyway. At this point of time, I've gone so far. I'm about at 1.6 million, and I was at 200K at one point. I have gone so far in that direction. It just makes sense for me to just run through the season with the plan that I've got. In fact,
Yeah.
invariably I always do. So
Yeah.
at some point in time, I hope the luck will change. And at some point of time, it will turn around. These are good players, and we shall see. We shall see.
Yeah.
As in, they again, who knows? They might not. And at the end of the season, I'll come back with a $1 million 700K rank, and we all can pretty much go laugh at me then. That's okay. That's cool, man. I don't care. So anyway, let's go back to the questions then. Is that
Yeah.
okay? Yeah. So you know what? I'll mix and match a few questions because we have discussed a lot of things. A lot of these points had been kind of hinted on. So, first question was, so this is from Rajat. Rajat, who's one of our very dear team members. He mentions that Spurs assets. What do you think about Son and Kane with the fixtures turn off Tottenham Hotspur as they have tough fixtures moving ahead? I don't feel we need to answer this, but the next part is interesting because we had spoken at length about Son and Kane. The next part is they were excellent against Manchester City. Fair. Should I trust my instincts of keeping them or move them for Bruno, Salah, Vardy for the next 5 game weeks?
Ajit, do you want to
Ajit,
Should I
yeah, why
go?
not?
Ajit, let's go, Ajit.
Okay. So if I had both of them, I'd so okay. Just putting into perspective, they're extremely clinical at the moment. Both Kane and Son, and they're in form. And what I've noticed is most FPL managers that are doing well and have done well previously, and we've seen our own teams that are doing well, is that with our attacking assets, irrespective of the fixtures, should be kept on form. That means that if they're doing well, don't get rid of them just because you see, your FDR changing to fours and fives. Just putting that into perspective, the City versus Spurs match, City had 15 shots in the box against Spurs and converted none, whereas Spurs had just one shot in the box, which Sun converted. So when your football's a game of momentum, and when the momentum's good, nothing stops you. You can look at the stats, you can look at everything else, and you can you can blame everything. But when momentum's on, you're gonna do well. Now I don't understand the Mourinho play or not, like you guys do, and I'm sure you guys are much better. But if I had both of them, I'd definitely keep at least one. If so for example, if I was in Rajat's condition, in my personal opinion, I'd keep Kane and I'd shift Son on to either a Fernandez or a Salah, and then come back to it after game week 16 when the Spurs fixtures becomes good again. Because over the next few fixtures till game week 16, I think both Bruno and Salah will be very, very captainable. And this way he keeps his exposure to Tottenham and players that are in form, as well as adding on another capital asset into his. That's how I would go about it. Please, why don't you guys take the question? Gabe?
Gabe?
I would just say, whenever the question begins with, should I trust my instincts? Yes. Just because if you stray from that and it doesn't work out, this is kind of back to the previous conversation that how I was mentioning with Kane. If you stray from that and it doesn't work out, then you're miserable. But if you go with your instincts and it doesn't work out, then you recognize an error and you correct for it. And it's not so traumatic.
No, I agree. I'm good with that. I'll just tell you what I wrote down. I was reading these questions, and whenever I'm doing these readings, I simultaneously write down some few things. So this is what I wrote down. I said there is no right or wrong answer here,
Yeah.
and I also mentioned seasons depend on answers like that. This specific thing could be the difference between 10K and 100K, 50K and 500K, 800 and 8K, right? These are the sometimes you have heard me in this specific Q&A session in previous sessions, and I said your season does not depend on these things. These exact questions that we have been discussing about right now, seasons do depend on questions like these. So, but then, hey, our job is to make sure that the baseline season is still very good. The baseline season is a 50K season, right? So that this season can elevate us to 100K, or it can take us down to, still stay at 50K. So that is pretty much our job. These decisions are those take it or leave it kind of decisions we need. So the advice, again, I'll go with exactly what Gabe said. The advice I would give you is trust your gut. But if it is not working out, do have the humility to say mea culpa and get the alternate option, right? If it is not working out, don't be a goat and just stick to it. At some point, you need to just relax your mind and say, fine. Okay. By the way, the worst season I'd ever had was 2 seasons back, where I was convinced that Sir Marcus Rashford would be great. And for the last 9 game weeks of that season, I captained Rashford, and he got me 2s and 1s. So you know what? Don't be like me. Don't be like me that season. But anyway, the thing is, yeah, Rashford is a fabulous human being, and I do not regret that decision. We took a chance. Sometimes we take chances that work out. Sometimes they don't.
Okay, another thing, just extending on the same point that you made about Rashford giving you 1s and 2s. So I've had the same thing with KDB. So I benched him. He's calm. He's not really done anything. Even as my premium option, who's supposed to be one of the captainable options, I have no confidence in captaining him at the moment. When I see him play, he plays well. Nothing wrong. All good. But there's no end result. It's just 2-1.
But then he
Now,
brightens himself, right?
yeah. But now he even missed a penalty.
Yeah, he even missed a penalty. So he's double brightening himself. Yeah, indeed.
So now his fixtures actually become really good. So as a person who doesn't have a wild card, who still has his wild card, I decided during these good fixtures rather than sell him now. Saying that if it still doesn't work out, I have my wild card to fix this problem.
Oh, beautiful.
So is that the correct way to think, or is there something I can improve on, or that is not performing irrespective of having a wild card or fixtures? I should just let him go and get like someone who is performing right. That is my question.
I
How
have
do you guys think about it?
I have an answer to that. Okay, this is what works for me. I have a number of game weeks that I have kind of decided upon. After 4 game weeks of this person not performing, I'll throw him out. After 3 game weeks, whatever, of the other person not performing, I'll throw him out. Something like that. Right? And I kind of stick to that. And after that, if it doesn't, like this is what happened with Vardy. You remember last season, Vardy was playing really well. And then he had this, right after his baby was born, he had this extended, what, 5 or 6 game weeks where he scored nothing.
Yeah.
I had 5 was my number. So after 5 game weeks, I got rid of Vardy and he exactly after that started playing well. But I cannot crib on that, right? I had kind of made my decision that 5 game weeks is my number. And exactly as Gabe said, right? You make your decisions and you live by them. It's okay. Sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't, right? Maybe if I got rid of Vardy earlier, I would have got a top 100 season. Great. Wow. I hadn't, but hey, again, the whole concept is to make your baseline season good, right? That I did. And so last season was pretty good for me. So yeah. And sometimes things work out, sometimes things don't. It's okay. Okay, a few other questions. Okay, so there is this other question by Rajat saying Jota, right, versus Foden versus Walcott. I'd add a few more. Okay, so a few others asked a few more questions on this, so I'll add a few more. Right. So there was talk about Grealish. No, let's not talk about Grealish at all. Come on, he's really good. Let's just stick with him. Move on. Okay. So yeah, okay. If we just go with those three, Jota versus Foden versus Walcott, what would you go with? It's a very weird question, interesting question. I hadn't really thought of it. I haven't considered any one of the three, but it's one of those chess puzzles, right? What do you go with? And he has extended on that. He says, I like the 3 differentials and plan on bringing one of them in. My team, what do you think will get me more returns within the next 5 game weeks? Both Jota and Foden aren't regular, while Walcott is a guaranteed starter in absence of Ings. I don't know. What do stats say? Ajit, Gabriel? Yeah.
So Southampton's been significantly outperforming its attacking stats. I don't see that continuing, both on the short term and the long term time frame. By short term, I mean last 4 game weeks as compared to the last 9 game weeks. I don't see that continuing, and the amount of chances, etc., that they create are also not that high. So as far as I'm concerned, Jota or Foden, as far as the team is concerned, would be the better picks. They have the better fixtures. Yes, they might be at a larger rotation risk than Foden and Jota at the moment, but I think everyone during the period is a rotation risk. I won't be surprised if even the big premiums get sat out at least 1.5 games. And you've seen Jota and Foden get off the bench and score. I think that will continue. My only thing is, if you get one, stick with that one and make them start every game week. Don't try and bench them and try and figure out which game week they'll come and score or not score. Because I feel that personally would cause a lot of heartache and I'm not good at it. So from my perspective, if you get one, get that person, start him every game week and, stick with him over the next 5 game weeks. I think between Jota and Foden. Another thing I was reading today is that Manchester City has not been very creative recently. So they might bring Foden back and start him more often to bring in that creativity and to increase the attacking power that the team has currently. Yes, you can say that Sterling's been injured, etc., and all that, but we've seen Foden come off the bench and score even when those things were there. So that is one argument of getting in Foden. Of course, if one of the guys up front for Liverpool gets injured, then Jota is a no-brainer in this. But for now, between Jota and Foden, for sure, whoever you get, make him play every game week, and they should pretty much end up on the same points, according to me. Gabe?
Cannot hear you.
Can't hear you.
No.
How about now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah, very well.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know why. I tried two different headphones and they both crapped out on me, so I'm gonna go without gonna fly without headphones right now.
We can hear your dulcet tones just perfect right now. Go ahead.
I don't know if you're hearing me then, but I think Jota was in my wild card like for 2 weeks, and then I took him out at the end because of the uncertainty. Salah's back, so what's going to happen is Klopp going to go with a 4-2-3-1 and put Jota at the tip, or is he going to move? Firmino found some form. He got some delivery and found some form last game, so maybe he goes back to his regular front three, and packs the midfield with traditional midfield players. Certainly when Thiago gets healthy. So that uncertainty is why I moved off of him. I think he's a great pick in the short term, or he was a great pick until now. Salah's back. We don't know. I think Foden. I don't know. Foden is a mystery to me. I started the season with Foden, and I was glad I did. And I was going to use him the way Ajit just said. You can't predict things, and you're going to have to take the 1-pointers with the 9 and 11 pointers. But when it'll balance out, right? Because it's because of the price point around 6.5. You're not looking for a 9-pointer every week. If you get a 9-pointer 1 week and a 1-pointer the following week, you're averaging 5 points a game week for a 6.5. That's good. You'll certainly take that, right? Yeah. But City is a mystery because I don't understand why Pep continues to play Mahrez. Mahrez does not fit this team. It does not fit this team the way they're trying to do it. So what happens? And I wrote I think it was a Twitter post or something. It was a discussion I had with somebody where. Well, first of all, Ferran Torres is a right-sided player. That's his natural position. That's where he played in Valencia. That he needs to be starting there. Ferran Torres he's in form. He's performed well at every position that they put him in, both on the right side, in the center, and on the left. But he needs to be on that right side. What happens with Mahrez is as City push the field up and they possess around the opposition's box, which is where they usually possess, the field gets compact. And when the field is compact, Mahrez has no room to make a little move and then run into space to get past people, because as soon as he passes somebody, there's someone else right in his face. So what does he do is he cuts the ball back a little bit and bends a speculative cross to the far post that sometimes you have to wonder, is he really shooting here because he's such a selfish player? And then when he isn't shooting, it's not a very good cross.
Correct.
So in that system, against easier opposition, I expect Foden to play in midfield with Kevin De Bruyne. And Foden will be more advanced than Kevin De Bruyne, which is why I like Sterling a little bit more than De Bruyne, and why I think Foden is a decent pick for this easy run of fixtures. When the fixtures get tough again, I expect Foden to be rotated. He's not there for his defensive qualities. He's there for his creativity, as you guys mentioned. So if you can deal with that back and forth, I think long term Foden is the pick. I think Jota has the highest upside because when he is in, he will most likely be playing at the tip of the front line. So he's an out of position player, and his form is incredible right now. So it just kind of depends on what you want from the player. Walcott is so temperamental on a much worse team. And is it going to be Walcott? Is it going to be Armstrong, who's now slid into the 10? Sometimes Walcott just makes runs to drag the defense away. I don't really know what's going on or how Southampton will kind of unfold. So I guess of the three, I prefer Foden in the medium term, Jota for upside, and Walcott for, let's not talk about Walcott.
Yeah. I'll tell you something, man. All three of these moves, all three of these players are so, you know what?
These are like anti-Sean players. They're like the opposite of the way you play the game.
Absolutely. You know what? I refuse to bother my mind so much. Having these, flash in the pan, suddenly, 17 points and 2 points, 17 points and 1 point kind of players. Sorry, I'm not having them. Right? I'd rather have players who I'd expect to get 7 points every game week, but who get 2 points every game week. I'm happy with those. No problem. Anyway, yeah. So going back to the questions, I'm not even giving my recommendation. You all have spoken well. I'm fine. I don't have anything to add. Now, the next question, I wouldn't even ask you to say anything. Okay, I'll close out this question right here. James Rodriguez. What is the issue here? Nothing in the last 5 weeks. Will the return of Richarlison help his form? My answer is wait. He was just superlative in the last match, at least by my untrained eye test. The points will come. They have come earlier. There will be 1 or 2 of these game weeks where points don't come. Relax. Hold on. You've had him for a reason. That reason still sticks. Move on. Please don't answer this question unless you have something dramatically different to say.
Not different, but I do want to add that James Rodriguez had a phenomenal game in their previous game.
Exactly.
He assisted the assist twice.
Yeah.
From the top of the box, outside the left to Dean, across inside the box. That's going to keep happening. And he's also going to get his assists as well.
100%. 100%.
So,
and you know what? Remember the first game week where they beat Tottenham? James was doing exactly the same thing. He was cutting in. He was making those crosses for Richarlison, and he was making those crosses for Digne, and Digne was crossing them in. And then people were scoring through, right? Richarlison was scoring, or DCL was scoring. The other option is that Dean is a very good crosser, right? He crosses longer, and James comes in and just taps it in. That too will happen. I thought his performance was one of the best last game week, and I did not see all the matches. This season I haven't seen all the matches. I see around 2 or 3 matches every game week, so I'm missing out on a bit, I know. But James, I thought, was extraordinary. He was very good. So guys, don't overthink. Keep him. He'll be fine.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. So that's don't think too much decision. Move on. Next question. Really nice. Werner versus Kane versus Vardy. Who would you go for? I'll tell you what I think over here. I said go for Werner, a guy I never even thought of. You know, my reason for thinking Kane is good is that Kane is in a team that might not score that many, but whatever will happen through Kane. That was my thought about Kane. For Vardy, I believe that at some point of time, the bubble will burst a little bit. I think Vardy has been good. Vardy has been fine. But you know what? I don't believe in my eye test, but my eye test tells me hold on a little bit to Vardy. Hold on a little bit before committing to Vardy. I take your point, Gabe. I know that you in the long term are thinking with or without Vardy, but he hasn't convinced me yet. Last season I got Vardy early, and for some reason last season I found him a little more convincing. And but my choice would be Werner. Chelsea is attacking and Werner is playing well, and he's getting something or the other pretty much every game week. And it seems as if that will be the standard way that Lampard's team will play. They'll attack a lot, and Ziyech is a good creator. Havertz is settling in, and Pulisic is very good once he comes in. There will be another runner who will be running at the defenses. I'd go Werner. What will be your decision, guys?
So here's some. I know they're largely irrelevant historically, but here's some Vardy stats anyway. In the last 4 game weeks, he has 7 big chances, which is second, 3 goals, which is second, 8 shots on target, which is second, and a 3.98 xG, which is also second. Most of those categories, he's second to Patrick Bamford, just for out of curiosity.
Who I have?
Who you have?
Who I have?
And then to add to that, let's talk about the fixtures, specifically this fixture. So his stats are there. He's returned in 3 of the last 4. So his form is there. And then now let's look at the fixture. Obviously, we know Fulham is an easy matchup, but let's figure out why. So Fulham concede approximately 2 big chances per game. Vardy scores an average of 1 goal for every 2 big chances. Almost a guaranteed goal for Vardy if you do the funny math there. And let's see. Oh yes, Vardy scored 8 of 13 big chances, which is 62%. He scores 62% big chances. Also, Fulham concede about 1 xG every 60 minutes. And Vardy scores 1 goal every 1.3 xG. So there's a high probability that Vardy gets 1 goal in the next game, and a decent probability he gets a double return in the next game against Fulham. The next 3 fixtures for him are all Fulham-like. So I'm expecting 1 to 2 returns in each of the next 3 fixtures for Jamie Vardy. Like I said, I did my wild card 1 week early, so I got him for the Liverpool game, which I thought was a good matchup, but Liverpool played well. But the next 3, it's not about a team like Liverpool, a team in bad defensive form. It's just about bad teams. This is who they are.
How, in your opinion, would Vardy stack up with Werner?
So I love Werner, and I think he's been a little bit unlucky, and I think he's still growing as a Premier League player. And that's saying a lot because I think he's already in good form. He is getting good chances. The week before, I think game week 8, I think he had the most chances. All of them created by Ziyech. I think Ziyech created the most, Werner had the most, or something like that. So I think Werner is developing into a fixture-proof striker. I'm going to wait until that happens before myself bringing him in. Hopefully, it happens right when Vardy's good run of fixtures ends, and then Werner comes up, and I can make that easy switch. But for me, Werner is he's a wait and see, but I like a lot of what I've seen so far. What do you think, Ajit, as far as those strikers?
Well, all 3 of them are fantastic. Werner and Vardy definitely have the better fixtures in the short term. And in the next 4 or 5 game weeks, there's no doubt about it. But again, it's how you look at the fixtures. We've seen that against some of the, let's say, weaker teams who tend to park the bus. Like we've seen West Brom. We saw both Manchester United and Tottenham not be able to create that much or score more than a single goal because they know they're coming just to defend. Whereas actually going up against, let's say, Spurs going up against the Chelsea, against the Liverpool, that's when you want these big strikers to actually do better because they've got all the space. You know, like a Werner is known to run and do well against a high line. Kane as well, Vardy as well. I mean, as far as Vardy is concerned, I never look at stats. If I start looking at stats to bring in Vardy, I'll never bring him in. He just needs one hit. You know, I had a defender against Vardy in Liverpool versus Leicester, and I just knew till the 95th minute, this guy needs just one chance and he'll bang it in, and that clean sheet will be gone. Unfortunately, it didn't happen for me. But so today, if I was on my wild card and I had to pick one of them, it would be one of Vardy or Werner. Second situation is you're an aggressive, you're upside chasing, and you're looking for the best captain pick and all. Then of course Vardy is the one against Fulham. If you're trying to play like me this season, not take any hits, have a plan, stick with it. I did that with Werner for the first 4 game weeks. I got nothing from him. and I made up my mind. Now I'm shifting to Kane. Until Kane disappoints me, I'm going to stick with him. And I'm with Kane, and I have absolutely no reason in my mind to remove Kane. In fact, I feel against these good teams, stronger teams who play with a high line, there is a chance that Kane could surprise us and continue to score a goal a game, if not more. That's where I'm coming from.
Mhm.
No, fair enough. So fair enough. I think I don't have anything else to add. I think we are good. Next would be a
Can
question
you just
on.
give me one? Just give me 1 second.
Go
Just
ahead.
Give me one. Yeah, just give me 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Thanks. Go ahead.
Okay, so the next question. Now, there is a really nice question from Shravan. Sends quite a few nice questions. So Shravan's question was on. Now there are a few mixed questions. Okay, so we'll kind of mix a few questions up and say. Shravan asks about Leeds United and says, if Leeds keeps producing at this rate, do you see Bamford reaching 20 plus goals? Absolute must-own. Somebody here, which is our friend Nishant, he mentions Watkins versus Bamford. For my wildcard, I need a 6 million striker. Who would be the better one according to you? P.S. I have Grealish. What do we think about our friend Patrick Bamford? And what do you think about our friend?
Why don't you tell us? He's definitely your friend. You have him.
Yeah, you know what? I've had this go in, go back kind of thing. I got my just before the season finished last preseason call. I put Bamford out. Then Bamford started playing well. I got him at 5.6. I sold him at 5.8 and bought him back at 5.9. So, and I pretty much decided to pretty much have him, keep him in my team. Leeds scores an awful number of goals, right? And if anything, they'd continue to score because they had been really unlucky in the few recent seasons. So I'll keep him. If possible, I'd have kept Watkins as well because I feel he's got brilliant movement, Watkins. And he's a clean finisher. They wouldn't create as many as probably Leeds would create, but they'll create, what should I say? Aston Villa will create enough. But the only reason I don't have, and again, his point is, again, was that Shravan or was that Nishant? Yeah, Nishant's point is fair. The reason I don't have Watford, I don't have Watkins is because I do have Grealish. But given a choice, I'd have both because I think Aston Villa will be another team that would kind of score enough to sustain both of them. And Leeds certainly would. I have Bamford in my team. At some point of time, I do not mind even getting in Rodrigo. I thought he was brilliant against Arsenal. And as in, our team was completely under the tap. So, but we survived. We got a draw. But I think Rodrigo is just, warming into that position right behind the striker. And I think he'll get a fair clip of goals this season and will definitely be value at 5.8. No questions. Bamford is 6.1 at this moment. Probably if you have to choose for any striker less than 6 million, I'd go Rodrigo. So, but again, that is pretty much what I would think. What do you all say about this? I'd go so put a gun on my head. I'd say Bamford. Given a choice, I'd say both. I really like Watkins as well. So there we are. How about you all guys?
Gabe, go for it.
Well, I think so. That price range, I think there's an interesting conversation in that price range. There's a lot of value, right? We have Bamford, we have Watkins, we have Shea Adams right now, while Ings is sidelined. Maybe even later, he's definitely shown us something.
He's decent.
And we have Antonio. So
6.2.
When you think of that's Bamford, Watkins, and let's just say Bamford, Watkins, and Antonio. I think the three of them are all a little bit like a level above Shea Adams right now as far as the FPL assets go. But then you add that you kind of have to have Dominic Calvert-Lewin.
Yeah, he's a no-brainer. Yeah,
Exactly.
all of us have
then you have to drop one of those three at that cheap And here's how I would rate them. I would say Bamford is the number one option. I'm a believer. I just didn't know at the beginning of the season. It's been 9 game weeks. I've probably been a believer for 2. So after 7 game weeks, I said, okay, this guy's the real deal. He's not a Pookie. This is going to keep happening. He is a BL subproduct.
Right. True.
And I think we're seeing that. And I think Antonio sneaks that next spot because, first of all, he's incredibly cheap. He started at 6.5. Now he's at 6.2. So there's a lot of value there. He is their attacking talisman. Everything goes to him. And we've seen since he's been gone, they've struggled. Cresswell has struggled for deliveries. Masuaku has struggled. I mean, they're still ticking along. But with Antonio, I think it's a team transformed. And I think don't remember what their fixtures are doing. I think they're going to be good.
Fixtures are still good for a little bit. Yeah. Reasonable for a little bit. Yeah.
Well, they have Villa United, Leeds, Palace, Chelsea. It's a bit of a mixed bag. It's spotted, but I don't think fixtures matter so much for a player like him.
Exactly. As in, I wouldn't mind putting Antonio in against Chelsea. No problem.
No problem.
Chelsea
Against
will
any of those, to be honest.
Chelsea will win 3-1. Antonio will get a goal. Man United, I see West Ham winning 1-0 against Man United. Come on.
Man United still have Maguire back there, so he'll be just fine against Maguire.
Exactly.
And then third, and I love Ollie Watkins, but I would put him third on that list. So for me, then that's what I'm looking to shift my team. My front line will eventually be Antonio, Bamford, and Calvert-Lewin. And I think for me, it kind of chooses itself.
Can I whisper an absolute sacrilege? I am seriously thinking of 3-4-3 just because of these guys. And I haven't played. I'm seriously thinking of 3-4-3. I have never played 3-4-3. You know what? 3-4-3. Everybody plays 3-4-3. I have literally in my 13, 14 long years of playing FPL, I'd hardly ever played 3-4-3. And this is kind of the point when I'm actually going towards it. My third forward, who I believe is an excellent value for 4.5, even though he's absolutely rubbish in front of goal, is Ryan Brewster. But at 4.5, he's fairly regular. And he created an absolute sitter for McBurney. McBurney is the other striker, right? Yeah. He created a very good chance for McBurney. But yeah, I have Brewster. I am thinking at some point in time, if I ever am tempted to move to Bruno Fernandes, that will release a little bit of money from my 3 big midfielders. At that point, I could probably consider losing a middling midfielder, middling defender, and making 1 more million and actually going for a third striker. I'm very pensive towards doing that, but I just might. Points well taken. Ajit, you want to add something?
Yeah, just to I have Watkins, so I just wanted to share the thought process behind this. So, firstly, Bamford's the amount he's been selected, it's over 30%. So every time he scores, and when he scored that hat trick, and I saw my rank fall, I was like, "What the hell just happened?" I didn't even realize his ownership was through the roof. But then I went back, and there is no denying that between the 3 strikers that we're talking about, Watkins, Antonio, and Bamford, that on every aspect of statistics, Bamford just blows them out of the water. The service he gets when you watch Leeds play, it's insane. You're like non-stop. One side Harrison, the other side Costa is just non-stop. Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah. But then and Poveda and the other guy.
So it's crazy.
Everybody does.
The guy who comes in for the last 10
minutes.
Yeah. He's a rocket. When he goes
he's
in,
brilliant. He finished our old friend Benjamin Mendy's career, literally. You remember against City? Yeah. He chewed him up and spat him out. Yeah, seriously, it was crazy. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So go ahead.
Coming back to the point, so then I went back to the big chances because I've seen like the big chances created have a huge correlation over a season with the teams, because that shows like your team's creativity and that's where the chances come from. One is big chances, that's okay. Those that can happen by a bad pass, like we saw yesterday between Burnley and Crystal Palace. There were not big chances, but big chances actually created because your team is good. Out there, Aston Villa is actually number one. It's ahead of Leeds. And West Ham is way, way, way behind Leeds and Aston Villa. Another thing I was looking at is big chances scored as compared to big chances. So if you see total amount of big chances for Aston Villa this season are 24, total scored are 11. Whereas for Leeds, total big chances created are 18. It's less. And total scored are only 5. And for West Ham, total scored are around 6 from a total amount of big chances of 14. So either Bamford is not as clinical as the data suggests, and if you remove that one hat-trick that he scored, how good is he is difficult for me to say. But this is the reason I chose Watkins. Of course, fixtures also play a part in that. West Ham United have shown that they're fixture-proof, that we've seen from their first few things. Aston Villa actually plays better against the better teams. Against the poorer teams, they struggle. Brighton, they lost. And Southampton, they lost. So that's off. Leeds, again, very erratic. I don't know. Sometimes they just come and, score a lot of goals. Yesterday, with an extra man, they couldn't score. So I don't think it's as simple like Gabriel said. If we didn't have the DCL problem, I'll probably have all of them, But this is the reason I went with Watkins at the moment, knowing very well that they are so close to each other in price that if after a short period of time I feel like I have made a mistake, it's easy to change to the other.
Swallow my pride, say mea culpa, change over. Absolutely. You know what? I sincerely believe that that's an underrated trait, that you move forward through a season, you realize that one person is not, if you realize that one person is doing better than the other, just saying, okay, I might have been wrong, move over.
Yeah.
It's a very underrated trait. It's not the best thing to do for Twitter following, but it's really good from FPL POV. So, but anyway, so moving on, there is, okay, another question that I'll just attempt to answer even before I go to y'all. Grealish, this is from Jojo. Jojo says, Grealish had been a starter for me in almost all game weeks, but he has been inconsistent, and even he has been off the penalty duty. Is rotating him according to fixtures advisable? Dude, inconsistent. Oh my God. He scored.
I'm getting upset. I'm getting upset, Jojo.
Okay. Okay. No. I'll be good. I'll not be ruthless. Okay. There are 9 game weeks completed. Grealish has got 4 goals and 6 assists. That's 10 points. That's 10 goals/assists in 9 game weeks. He has scored points in 5 game weeks of 9. That's not inconsistent. That's super consistent. If you get good points in alternate game weeks, that's consistent. Not inconsistent. Don't rotate him. You'll invariably miss a haul. And then you'll only be having yourself to feel sorry about. He's gotten points against whom? Quickly. He has gotten points against... He has gotten nothing against Sheffield United. He has got points against Fulham. He's got points against Liverpool. He's got nothing against Leicester and Leeds. He's gotten points against Southampton. He's gotten points against Arsenal. And he's got nothing against Brighton. So you think that is anything but a rotation kind of a player. You just put him in, forget about it, you'll get enough. Guys,
I think I understand where Jojo's coming from, though.
Okay,
if there's a way to look at it, right? First of all, I don't consider a clean sheet a return for a midfielder. So I'll just put that out there. No, that 1 point is not a. That's a
what I'm saying is he's got 4 goals and 6 assists.
No. I understand. So they've actually played only 8 games. So to strengthen your point, it's 10 returns in 8 games.
10 returns in 8 games, yeah.
which is incredible. But
Yeah.
there's another way to look at it. He's only returned in 50% of his matches.
Yeah, 50% of his matches.
So and if we look at the last what is it? One,
And
two,
that's
three.
50% is consistent. 50% is consistent.
It's consistent, but when let's say you have other players, kind of other rising players in midfield, you can get tempted. So and I think this is a lesson for Jojo on perspective. You could make this narrative, right? Jack Grealish only has one double-digit return in the last 5 and only has 2 returns in the last 5. 2 of those being 1 point. So he has the same amount of returns in the last 5 as he has 1-pointers in the last 5. That doesn't seem consistent. It doesn't feel consistent, right? But when you shorten the sample, when you make the sample size smaller, you can create any kind of narrative you want, right? If we're sitting in game week 6 and we say, look, Grealish returned 3 last week, 1 this week, he's done. His run is done, and you can make that narrative and make that switch.
Mm-hmm.
But to your point, Sham, I think you need to take a broader lens and realize this is a 7.5 million midfielder that has 10 returns in 8 and 2 double-digit returns and the highest return of any player all season. That 1 week of the 24 points.
24 points.
So
yes.
it's just how you tell yourself the story, man. And if you tell yourself he's inconsistent, you are going to believe he's inconsistent and you're going to transfer him out no matter what we say.
And exactly what you say is interesting, is about the filters, the lenses that you put in, right? So you have to have a kind of a cutoff. Don't force yourself. How should I put it? And I've been guilty of this, that you put statistics to validate thought process that you have. Again, I try my hardest to not do that. I try to use statistics and numbers I try to use statistics and numbers the way they should be, right? In the last 5 game weeks, what would be 5.5 points per game week is good. Pretty much everybody would accept it is good. Grealish has got more than that in the last 5 game weeks.
Yeah.
So again, it's important to, how should I put it? It's important to try not to put stats, convert the stats to fit your narrative, but actually use the stats as they are and then create the narratives after, post facto, rather than before. Again, sorry, I've been laughing around too much about this, but no, Grealish is not inconsistent. Keep him. Okay, this is my humble request. Keep him. He's fine. Okay, Ajit, you want to add anything? Or we move to the next question. What do you think?
He's a talisman. So in fact,
Exactly.
if Grealish was to get injured, I'd probably get rid of Watkins.
Right. Yeah.
You know how I'm thinking. So he's that important to that team. And
Correct.
he's the 4th highest points per match returner in FPL as far as midfielders are concerned. And he's 3 million cheaper as compared to any of the guys above him.
Right.
So if you have him, I'd play him every week. I won't worry about penalties. He's getting enough points without it. His fixture run is right up there till game week 16. In fact, I'm trying to find ways to get him in. So I completely agree with that.
Okay, cool. Moving on. Nishant asks, now I'll again be putting in a few questions together. Nishant asks about Liverpool, says, I was set on Liverpool double defense setup and forget for the season, but now with TAA and Van Dijk injured, with Robertson and Jota, benefit me more than Robertson plus TAA. I'm asking because Jota's minutes would be managed throughout the season, but TAA is a sure starter when he gets fit. Someone else, that being SDRDEA, says, Everton between Digne and Robertson, who offers more long-term value? Would you take Dean or add in an extra 1 million for Robertson? Now that Tsimikas is fit, will Robertson's minutes be managed over the busy season due to the European fixtures? Sangeet asks, Robertson was for me on my way out after this game week, but due to his 12-pointer, it has made me a bit skeptical. Question is, Robertson worth it, or can we get the same value elsewhere? Ajit, you want to go for it?
Yeah, so I'll try and deal with this in one thing. So just give me a second.
By the way, Jojo also asked a similar question about this, and he just added Chilwell into the equation as well. But yeah, the point kind of stays. Go ahead, Ajit.
All right. So despite what is perceived to be a very, very poor defensive performance by Liverpool through this season, Robertson is the fourth highest scorer by FPL returns. Yes, he's tied with a couple of other guys, but he's still fourth at 43 points. So Robertson over Dean for sure, because though Liverpool have been poor, Everton's current performance has been even worse defensively. I've owned Keane, and Keane, despite his attacking returns, has been giving me 1-pointers over the last 3 or 4 game weeks. I am planning to move on from him and get Matip in. One of my biggest contrarian moves for the next couple of game weeks again, since I have my wild card, and if I don't like it down the line, citing the fixtures for Liverpool, let me just share those with you. They face Brighton, Wolves, Fulham, then Tottenham, then Crystal Palace and West Brom. I don't think you can get a better run.
Better run than this, yeah.
Clean sheets by Liverpool. I feel that despite not having Van Dijk, they seem to be a decent unit. We saw an example of it against Leicester, and Leicester, from no angle, is a poor attacking team. Yes,
Agreed.
They were more motivated. They were at home. They were all these things. And maybe Leicester just had an off day. Give them everything. Still, I think Liverpool put up a very good thing. And also, till they have Alisson, I have a certain level of faith in their defense. So Robertson definitely is the defensive asset that you want from Liverpool during this length. But I am doubling up with Matip because at 5.4, he gives me a lot of value at that for these fixtures. And we saw some attacking side. All Robo's corners were aimed at Matip's head. You know, similar to what Gabe had been talking about for Manchester United. He said Telles actually makes Maguire a good asset because most corners should be attacked at Maguire for the corners and stuff like that. So similarly, I see the same with Matip, and I think he's 2 million cheaper than TA. TA, he very categorically said he will not be there for at least 2 to 3 game weeks. So if you have him, you should move on. I think Matip will make a great alternative. Yes, between Everton and Liverpool, I prefer Liverpool, especially for the run, because Everton's fixtures actually tend to get tougher ahead of game week 12, game week 13, whereas Liverpool till game week 16, game week 18 is fabulous defensively, at least on paper. So I am doubling up. It's contrarian to what the FPL community thinks right now. And in any case, my defensive units haven't been doing well, so this is a risk I definitely want to take. Over to you guys.
Yeah, you go.
So I think, well, you saw from my wild card, I think there's better value elsewhere. But that being said, I think Robertson is still one of the best defender picks that you can have. I think if you have Trent Alexander-Arnold, moving to Matip is a shrewd idea. It's a shrewd kind of differential call, especially after how good they looked in the previous game. They look more organized than their regular back four. So if they can build on that organization, I think Matip is a great value pick at 5.4. But to speak about Andy Robertson, so this season he's first for big chances created among defenders. First for big chances created. He has the highest XG and the highest XGI of all defenders, and he's second to Aaron Cresswell for baseline bonus. So he has a lot of different things going for him. So I think Robertson is one of the best defender picks. even right now, while they're injured, and doubling up is certainly not out of the question, given their last performance and the upcoming fixtures.
Hmm. Hmm. I'm having to carry TAA because I wouldn't want to take a hit at this moment, especially because I don't really need to play him. So because I have enough other players to, as in enough enough to have a decent team
Right.
without taking a hit. So I'm having to carry TAA. During that time, if he comes back fit, I wouldn't really require to change anything. And
Mhm.
TAA to Robertson, no, I'll pretty much keep. Yeah. Unless TAA continues to be injured and I have moved to a stage when I have a transfer in hand, then of course I'll be happy to move to Robertson. I have kept both. I have, for an extended part of last season and the season before, I'd had both of them. So yeah, point well taken. I'm good. Um, can we move to the next question?
Yeah.
Unless you have anything else. Yeah. So this is an interesting question, and it's interesting. So Shravan asks, fix the weakest links or go upside chasing? Is it right to prioritize transfers on underperforming mid-price cheap SS rather than switching around premiums? Gabe?
Sorry. Can you repeat the question, please? I
Yeah, sure.
had a little bit of an interruption.
Yeah. Actually, fix the question from Shravan is that fix the weakest links or go upside chasing? Is it right to prioritize transfers on underperforming mid-price cheap assets rather than switching around premiums? I have an answer to give over here, but please carry on.
Go. No. You go first. I don't have an answer. I don't think there's one way or.
That is the answer.
Oh,
That is the answer. So to me, that is pretty much the answer. As in, you just, boss, it's your playing style, right? I am a
Yeah.
lazy FPL player. I would always go for prioritizing the underperforming mid-price cheap assets. I'm happy to be a lazy FPL player. I'm happy to keep a team that performs as regularly as possible. I'm happy to hang on. I'm happy to wait till my players perform. It's just my playing style. There are other people who have done really well upside chasing. Who am I to say? Play the
Yeah.
style you're comfortable with and move forward. And Gabe, Ajit, what do you think? Ajit, you go first.
I think one is your playing style, and the second thing would be how you're performing. If you're not performing well, you're not going to be upside chasing. You're going to be trying to fix the issues in your team, which would most probably be your weakest links. And if you're doing well, you might even be taking hits to play this upside chasing. So, and the kind of mind frame you're in, which will obviously come again from your performance. So one is your playing style, and second is your current performance. When these two things click together, I mean, that will lead to either fixing your weak links and going upside chasing rather than a predetermined decision like you guys have mentioned.
Gabe?
I mean, I think, upside chasing, and we talked about this earlier, don't transfer out an asset that's performing well. Is as a general rule, right? So it also depends how big the fire is. Like is for example, in your case, Shom, you Trent Alexander-Arnold went down, but it was a loss, but it wasn't a big fire because you had coverage. You could account for that, right? But if is that, for example, Trent Alexander-Arnold getting injured, is that a bigger fire than Kevin De Bruyne not producing? I don't know. That's going to depend on the person. It's going to depend on the team. For me, I don't like it. It doesn't sit well. It makes me sick when I have a player that costs a lot of money and he's not doing anything. I feel myself just like falling into a hole. So I would prioritize that. But this season, I'm also doing some upside chasing. I've transferred out major assets. I haven't held Salah for the whole season. So it just depends on you as a manager and the specific situation and how big the fire is that you're putting out.
True. True. I think we kind of have an agreement in this, so which is nice. Which is nice. Yeah. Yeah. You know what? Again, upside chasing is flamboyant, right? But again, flamboyant is not the only way to bat, right? You have Dravid and you have Sehwag, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry,
Yeah.
this is completely lost on Gabriel. Apologize for that, right? So,
Hey, I'm learning. I'm just listening. I'm like, okay, I'm picking something up.
two cricketers, right? One of them was a very steady and etc. And Sehwag was the other guy who used to like pretty much, go hammer and tongs from right the first ball. Anyway, but okay. The next question is kind of directed at me. So can I please answer it?
Please.
Okay. So, and that this could possibly be our, the question to finish it off. But after I'm done with it, I would like to take your advice on this as well. So the question that he asks is, this is by Hazard. He says, people who have used the wild card, what are their plans regarding the DGW and the BGW? Block and Bagan Boy, if I'm not wrong, have used their wild cards. Would love to know about their strategies and chip usage for that period next month. When should we start planning for that? I start planning about 5 weeks before once the BGWs and the DGWs come in. Before, that I think should be enough. I have kind of a, standard setup. If I can, I would try to fill my team up with as many double game week players as possible. And if possible, I'll pretty much go with as few blank players as possible. I'll not take hits unless absolutely, pretty much somebody is, throwing a knife on my throat. I am, I that is chip usage. Planning the blank game weeks, double game weeks is something I put a lot of thought into. So, I'm not worried that I don't have a wild card. That is pretty much the standard. That has pretty much been the standard way of operation for everybody for every season. I'm pretty much happy with, you know, the blank and double game week structure once that comes in. People that have the wild card is fine. Again, the wild card is also something that I do not put too much weightage into. I believe that you can mess up a wild card, and I have personally messed up enough wild cards to know that you can mess up wild cards pretty badly and completely mess up with your team. So, not for it. Happy to um, happy to take stock around 5 or 6 game weeks before the whole thing is announced, and then kind of figuring out how I should go ahead with it. Yeah, but I was never anticipating to have my wildcard during the winter BGW DGWs, and yeah, that pretty much is the thing. And you know what? This is one thing that I put a lot of thought into: the blanks and doubles, the chip strategies, etc. There isn't a single strategy that I like. Say, for example, with other things, I have strategies. I have standard playing styles with blanks, uh, doubles, chips, etc. Your strategy will depend upon what the fixtures would be. I'm happy to be flexible around it. I'm happy to change my team around these blank and double game weeks, and I'll take it as it comes. Ajit, you want to go next? Talk about.
Let Gabe go. I actually have a question I want to pose on the same thing to both of you.
Sure.
I'll go after
Sure.
Gabe.
Sure. Gabe, go ahead.
I just have a quick thing to add, not very much. It's just I use wild cards to plan for long term. I don't use wild cards to plan for a singularity of a double game week or blank game week or anything like that. I use the other chips for that, bench boost, free hit, and transfers to plan for those things. And wild card is as you saw from mine, is more of a long term thing.
Yeah. Fair. So again, yeah, point well taken. Point very well taken. Okay, over to Ajit. Ajit, go ahead.
Hi. So, me instead of giving advice, I was looking for advice, and I think it'll answer another important question that a lot of our friends on the group might have, who still have their wild card. Now, at the start of the season, I think most of us thought that we'll try and keep our wild card a little later this time. because we're still gonna get double game week confirmations, see how the fixtures are, see how the teams are performing, etc., etc. So if you can somehow keep your wildcard till game week 15, why not? Especially if you're in a decent space. Now, fortunately or unfortunately, I'm not in, I'd say, a decent place. I don't think I'm in a bad place also. I like my team, but I have my wildcard. Now, I still plan to use my wildcard unless my entire team is backed out with COVID or injuries. I don't even mind going with 10 people as long as I can keep my wildcard. So, if as a manager who can keep his wildcard till between game week 15 and 16, what are the things? Now, obviously, the people who've used their wildcard earlier, let's say, have an advantage over us because they've added to team value. They've gotten the guys who were good, whom we couldn't get. We didn't take hits. We waited slowly. We've lost out, and we're hoping that that advantage comes at a later stage. And of course, the late usage of this would hopefully, not necessarily, lead to a late usage of the second wildcard also. Because let's say, like Gabriel, we are also looking to use our wildcard for long-term planning rather than short-term game.
Absolutely.
Now, what are the things that you would look for to make sure you do not lose out on your advantage of the wildcard? Or another way of putting it, that you do justice to your wildcard for holding it so long and losing out on the short-term game that others have had ahead of you. And what would definitely help you in your thinking that you could keep that second wildcard till later, till let's say game week 26 when the next big double game week is expected, which gives you another 12 game weeks for the second wildcard, which is not short, not very long, but good enough to take enough advantage. So what are the key points you'd look at, and any other direction that you'd like to share with us?
Go ahead.
Yep. Okay.
Go ahead, Tom.
So this is kind of my thinking process. I have held off using a wildcard till normal game week season 18. Okay, and kind of decided that come whatever may, I'll not go that far, right? And that was my worst season of all, right? And but that was because I was being kind of rigid, right? I was being very rigid. I refused to move. Don't be that, is my request.
Yeah.
So yeah, the thing is, if you feel that your team really needs a surgery, then go ahead, do the surgery, right? On the other hand, if your team just needs a little bit of makeup, then put the makeup. Take a hit, put the makeup, and go ahead. It, again, makes sense to hold on. But then kind of the magic number that I have in mind is -16. At any point in time, if you're in a situation, four hits, -12. At any point in time, if you're in a situation of -12, you might as well not take the -12 when you take the wild card. That is kind of a magic number that I have put for myself. It doesn't necessitate that taking a -16 also is sometimes not worth it rather than taking a wild card. It depends on players. It depends on situations. Again, once holding on to that wild card is a bit of a walking in the dark, right? Because you do not really know whether it will even be useful, right? Sometimes it is, though, and sometimes it isn't. So there is that luck component. So that is pretty much what I have got. I don't know. I know that this is not a very finite answer. I don't prefer to hold my wild card for a very long time, and pretty much that's pretty much what it is. Gabe?
I think the way it works for me is there's a phrase I tell myself. It's the call of the wild card. And it's something that you feel it. It's like, when you're stuck in a city for too long and you need to get out and see the sky and see the trees and not see people, the call of the wild. It's the same with the call of the wild card. When your team is kind of falling apart or you're falling apart because of your team, and you just feel the call and you do it. And you do it and you trust it, but always put the call of the wild card in a larger plan is what I would say. Even if you just feel it, if it's an emotional decision, still try to make a larger plan around that emotional decision. But feel the call of the wild card.
Nice.
Well done. Well done.
No, I've actually seen managers who not even use the wild card sometimes. They just let one go, and they're
Yeah.
happy with their team, and they've killed it, absolutely smashed it.
Mhm.
And here I'm thinking, my God, how did he do that? And here, after using 2, I'm worse off than him. So, like you guys have said, there's no perfect time, but when you do, you know when you need the wild card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Either 12 or a call in the wild, like you said.
Yeah.
So,
And during that time, don't think very short term, as Gabriel very correctly said.
I have to think long term. Cool. Thank you.
Okay, that's pretty much where we are, I guess. We don't really have, and okay, this actually does answer another question that Jojo had asked. My good friend Jojo had asked.
Or
Yeah, I
wild
think.
card came in 17.
Yeah. So you know what? The rest of all the questions were pretty much about the big players. Who do you get one over the other, etc., etc. And again, we have kind of discussed that at length in terms of there is no right and wrong answer. Trust your gut, or but be humble enough to change when you require to. We had spoken about all of those things. We have dissected all the players. So that pretty much answers pretty much all the questions. This has been a long session. An hour and a half, probably longer than anything we have done, but it's done now.
Yeah, it's done. Thank you so
We
much.
made it.
Yeah. Okay.
That was good
Okay,
fun. That was
gentlemen.
good fun.
Yep. Okay, gentlemen, that was great. Fantastic. Good talking FPL with you all.
Yeah,
Thank you so
same with
much,
you guys,
guys.
and thank you everybody for all the
Yep.
questions. Really fantastic questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic questions, guys. The forum is amazing. Love you all. Ajit, have a good night. Gabe, have a good day. This has been fantastic. I'm glad to be back with you. Okay?
It's good to have you back,
Thank you.
brother.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.